Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Rosenthal with you on this Tuesday. Here's what's happening. Lots of sunshine, a few clouds. It'll be very windy and mild. Temperatures in the upper 70s. Certainly get out and enjoy it. Overnight, partly cloudy, mild weather. Temperatures about 54. And for tomorrow, increasing clouds. There'll be some sun in the morning. Rain could arrive before dark. It'll be near 70. Thursday is not looking bad. It looks partly sunny and pleasant. Temperatures in the upper 60s. Forecast being brought to you by Needham Coin and Jewelry Buyers, located at 317 Chestnut Street in Needham. They're the most highly recommended place to sell your coins, jewelry, gold, silver, and historical items. Call 774-766-3050. That's my forecast. I'm Mark Rosenthal.
You're locked into Money Matters Radio, 1120 AM WBNW. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative James McGovern are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help.
Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, a lot of people create their estate plan, but there are some that don't actually transfer assets into it. Can you explain why this is such a big mistake?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to try to explain it both from a revocable and an irrevocable
planning standpoint. With the revocable, if you don't put assets in there, you end up leaving them owned perhaps jointly if you're married, and designated beneficiaries and the like. But if everything goes to the spouse when one dies, then you've completely avoided your estate plan. In other words, you've set your trust up, but you went around it by leaving everything to the spouse instead of going through it by funding the trust and cramming down the assets to shelter some from estate taxes on the first death, so there's less taxed on the second death. And ultimately, on the second death, if you don't plan, there could be a probate problem because everything would go to probate if it's in their own name. The other big reason is with an irrevocable trust, of course, not funding it also can result in estate tax problems by the same way it did with the revocable trust. But in addition to not funding them with the irrevocable, you don't even begin the 5-year waiting period to get the assets protected from the nursing home. So there's a much bigger problem not funding an irrevocable trust versus not funding a revocable trust. So make sure you fund your trust if you do your planning.
Well, luckily, Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Financial Exchange. Happy Tuesday here. It's Mike, Paul, and Tucker with you on a jobs week. We've got data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics out this morning for the JOLTS survey. That's the job openings labor turnover survey that we report on once a month. This Friday, we'll be getting a full-blown jobs report. Thursday, of course, we get our weekly jobless claims in the context of a Fed that is now much more worried seemingly about the inflation effects than the labor market. But obviously, a few rough labor market reports can change that viewpoint. And you've got the new chair coming in with Kevin Warsh. We've got obviously the airline news continuing with Spirit Airlines' demise and the great wealth transfer that will be playing out over the course of the next couple of decades. But frankly, all of that taking a back seat to the news over the last couple days regarding the Middle East, Iran, attacks on the United Arab Emirates, and what it means for the U.S. presence in the Strait of Hormuz. So, Paul, picking up right there, we kicked off the show yesterday very much in a state of not really sure what's going on there. There was a lot of confusion starting at around...
That doesn't sound like this whole thing.
Yeah. Starting at around 4 or 5 in the morning yesterday after the president's Sunday statements about helping ships navigate the strait and U.S. military presence in that space. What we now know with a higher degree of certainty is that 2 ships were struck, one Korean-flagged vessel, another UAE-flagged vessel. There were also attempted strikes on the United Arab Emirates mainland. They put out a bunch of warnings to citizens. One of them ended up being a very quick false warning. Another one then repeated. But I think the biggest thing that we can conclusively say is that once again, in spite of the U.S.'s best efforts, ships are not feeling safe enough to navigate the strait. The U.S. is actively blockading any ships that are navigating the strait with Iranian permission, and we are in not much of a different position than we have been for the last 2 months when it comes at least to the supply of oil and all other goods that navigate through the strait.
Yeah, continued uncertainty in the region, Mike, and it seems like potential for some sort of pessimism if you sort of look at the events over the last few days here. I know you guys have been covering this extensively on a day-to-day basis. The question that I keep coming back to is we have this backdrop where now we're, 60-plus days into this whole war, where we were typically accustomed to 115 to 130 ships traveling through the strait. We're far off those numbers, and it's basically been a standstill. We've talked about on the show ad nauseum the impacts that has on the oil and energy markets as well as global supply chains. But yet still we sit here, Mike, with a market that is up again today, though it was slightly down yesterday, and a market that's up close to 6% year to date. I'm just curious, you and Chuck's view, kind of covering this day to day, as to why the markets seem to continue to chug along. Obviously, we've had a really nice earnings season here where we've seen double-digit earnings growth for a lot of those companies in the S&P 500. That's certainly a positive here domestically. But I just am curious as why we continue to see such positive investor sentiment. When I read these headlines in preparation for the show, it makes me a little more pessimistic on markets.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about semiconductors and Taiwan and everything else later in the program, but I think the answer is fairly simple. Energy markets are accurately pricing in the shortage now, 20% of the world's supply of oil gone. The United States is not dependent on low oil prices like they were in the 1970s and 1980s in order to support their economy. In fact, energy overall, the U.S. economy is far less energy intensive than it was a few decades ago. And realistically speaking here, I think the main answer is that this market in the United States since 2023 has cared about one thing and one thing only, which has been semiconductors and AI.
Right.
And so long as that supply chain isn't getting disrupted, I'm not sure that much else matters. There's other things at work here, too. Clearly, there's a buy-the-dip mentality. I think there is an interesting role that retail investors are playing today.
A little more of a risk-on environment
a
still.
decade ago. But overall, I don't want to overcomplicate it all that much. There is a looming crisis in energy markets. Spelling out exactly what the effect is on U.S. markets because of that is pretty complicated, right? Like, do I see a path where gas prices could be over $5 a gallon this summer?
Mm-hmm.
Sure do.
Yep.
Would that be painful for Americans? Absolutely. Would it be any substantially more painful than the existence of the tariffs that we initially thought were going into place in the spring of last year or other big disruptions to things overall? Maybe, maybe not. I have a tough time drawing out how much worse $5 a gallon gas is for the average American compared to tax rates where they were 2 years ago, or tariffs being a major contributing factor to things. There are these offsetting forces, and when I look at, for example, the total consumption of oil in the United States and the increased price there compared to the total benefit of tax cuts that went into place in 2026, they kind of wash each other out.
Yeah, I just wonder that the $5 a gallon particularly parallels to where we saw it, I believe, around July of 2022, where inflation was at that breakneck pace. And I'm not suggesting that we get back to those levels. And perhaps it's worth discussing, when you have oil and gas that high at $5 a gallon, it seeps into other areas beyond what you and I pay in the pump. Obviously, anything from a transportation standpoint for the goods that we buy from Amazon or others out there, you'd have to think that they would have to increase their prices in order to combat, and we've seen it with the airlines, and we're going to talk about that in today's program, to combat higher fuel costs, fares have to go up. The same thing applies. And so I just wonder that it seems that perhaps the argument could be, and I get it, we're not coming off of post-COVID stimulus where people were flush with a bunch of money, but how is the inflationary picture, which you did allude to, the Fed is concerned about, doesn't seep into market pessimism. I guess it goes back to your overall point, is that the market is lesser concerned about an inflationary picture or a pessimistic inflationary future here in the next 3 to 6 months than the emergence of continued just crazy demand for semiconductors. And I guess that overpowers it.
I think, I don't know the exact numbers. I'll try and pull them during the break, but I believe that year-over-year earnings growth for this quarter right
14,
now is on
13.
No.
More?
Closer to 20.
Wow, okay.
And so I think my answer is you can pave over a heck of a lot of problems so long as you have the big boys, which are the semiconductor AI players out there, some other tech companies too. But if you have those big boys pulling in profits that are growing 20% on an annual basis,
while also spending billions of dollars on CapEx, too, to build out data centers, which is helpful for a lot of the areas of the
you
economy.
might just take a back seat and say, yeah, okay, I can deal with interest rates at 4% for longer. I can deal with inflation at 3 to 4% if companies continue to produce earnings that are just literally knocking the cover off the ball.
Right.
I think that's my answer, and it's surprising in a lot of ways. I don't think it's sustainable from a political standpoint to have Americans paying $5 a gallon for gas and
ahead of the
over
midterms,
$6 a gallon for diesel, and I don't think that it's a good formula for anybody trying to run for re-election in general to see inflation, getting to 9%, coming back down to 3%, and then shooting back up, but from a pure U.S. stock market perspective,
Wall Street's not about that. It's about earnings.
That's the answer. Now, to be clear, if we start to get into a position where inflation's now running so hot that interest rates, rather than staying where they are now, need to go up like they did in 2022, that's a different set of circumstances. But we're not there yet.
Right.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I do want to get to that job openings, labor turnover survey, and then a little bit more about this energy impact on the U.S. economy. That's next here on the Financial Exchange.
Remember, you can watch the show live every day on our YouTube page. We've got market updates and breaking business news all morning long, plus a full archive of all our show's content. It's all there with the click of a button at youtube.com/The Financial Exchange Show.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Over the years, it's easy to collect investment accounts, including old 401ks and multiple IRAs. But at some point, it can get hard to keep track of what you actually have. Too many accounts can lead to confusion, overlapping investments, and sometimes missed opportunities. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts, and in it, you'll learn how to simplify your financial life, giving you a clearer picture of your strategy, your risk, and your progress. The guide will also walk through how to avoid common mistakes and build a more organized, intentional plan. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your free copy of our new guide called Consolidating Investment Accounts. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. It's important to update your estate plan as changes occur in your life, or you can wind up with significant issues that may affect your future. Get Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. Call 866-848-5699 and get your copy today, or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes, and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
I was 24 when I had a stroke. I was 35 when I suffered a heart attack.
I was 46.
I was 62.
It's a fact. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in women.
But we can fight against our #1 killer.
Talk to your doctor about your risk factors.
Know your family history.
Learn the warning signs and symptoms.
Together,
let's go Red for women.
Visit goredforwomen.org to learn more.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Stephen Lynch are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
From Fed decisions to market moves, watch the Financial Exchange live on X. This is the Financial Exchange.
We got a listener text during the last segment about gas and all sorts of other pieces that I thought was interesting. By the way, you can text the show at 617-362-1385. We also do our weekly mailbag segment on, is that Fridays, Tucker?
Yeah, Friday, 11:35.
And what's that phone number for that?
399-399-4333 or email tfeshow@gmail.com.
You just did it wrong, but it's
Did I?
339-399-4333.
Well, why did you ask me?
TFEshow@gmail.com. I didn't remember it until you said it, Tucker. In any case, the text, I'll read it. So the price of gasoline being up significantly is not helpful. Tariffs are not particularly helpful. The Strait of Hormuz, blockade, war in the Ukraine, all of this is not good. But I'm a home improvement contractor. Yesterday, 2 customers signed contracts with me for home improvement work. Total was $98,000. Single best day I've had in 2 years. Previous mark was $72,000. The point is, I know things are not great, but there are people who have the money and choose to spend it in almost any economy. Could not agree more.
Really like that text. Yeah, it's a nice way to kind of crystallize everything that's gone on. And that's been the story. Has been a resilient consumer through everything for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's not to minimize the experience of a good chunk of Americans, a third or more, who are in very tough place, and seeing gas prices increase this much may knock them over the edge, right? And I am certain that with gas prices being up, like we saw Spirit Airlines' demise, there will be individuals who fall beyond the precipice and can't make their student loan payments or can't pay off that credit card or do those things. But on the other hand, we have this extraordinarily wealthy group, especially over the age of 60, who are continuing to spend. And in this individual's instance here, they usually own a home. They oftentimes have a mortgage. That mortgage rate is oftentimes below 4%. And so, yeah, I believe it. I believe that people are spending money on home renovations. I believe that people are choosing not to move and instead making those decisions to stay in their homes for longer and make them the better homes that they want, because especially the events of these last few months have, I think, signaled to a whole bunch of people, well, that mortgage that I was hoping to get below 5.5% doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon, so I'm staying right where I am.
And the other thing that we've seen over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, as much as we can try and forecast potential economic issues in the future, the bottom line is, to this texter's point, and kind of that disregards my initial question, the first segment of why is the market still up, even though there are these concerns geopolitically, is that the market has just kicked butt for the last 5 or 6 years, with the exception of 2022 being a down year. All these other years post 2018 really have been some really strong market years. And so as a result, like you mentioned, this baby boomer population that has pretty significant amounts of sums in the market in their retirement accounts or other investment accounts have seen their money grow on paper. And as a result, when you see that money grow, it's easier to pay for these type of renovations.
It's not just the boomers. There are plenty of working folks and younger folks that are independently wealthy and able to do this too. But in terms of one key demo that holds a lot of the nation's wealth and is very comfortable spending right now, it is that younger baby boomer demo that's healthy, newly retired, and looking to upgrade their lifestyle a little bit. This morning at 10 a.m., we received a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the first JOLTS report we've gotten since the outbreak of war in Iran. It's measuring data from the month of March. And I think the key answer here, Paul, is what we kind of already knew regarding the economy in March, which was not much has changed on that front. We did see job openings increase a little bit, the hiring rate increase a little bit as well. But overall, if you're looking for that sign that the economy, the labor market is either on the precipice of dramatically slowing down or quickly heating up, I don't really see much in the way of signals on that front. And this is one of those reports. The reason we report on this one, generally speaking, I don't mean to overly generalize with this, but the reason that we look at this report specifically is many economists have looked at it and said this is a better indicator of what's going to happen with wage inflation than the unemployment rate or any other different measure that we have to look at the state of the labor market. The pace of hiring and the number of jobs that are open right now, how many employers are looking for workers, is a better indication of where wages are going to go. And we saw this in 2021 and 2022 when there was a real shortage for workers.
Yeah, there's, I guess the jobs reports have become under scrutiny over the course of the last few years just because of some questions regarding how good is the survey data that they're getting. There's these revisions to them. And so this one has been leaned on a little bit more. But with the labor market, whether it's this report, the JOLTS, and the unemployment rate has remained kind of plateaued at this, what's anticipated to come in at 4.3% on Friday, and you've had very little job additions. But we've talked about some of the factors in place that have kind of kept that unemployment rate stabilized in terms of older workers sort of exiting the labor force. Those baby boomers that Mike and I were just talking about are retiring in droves, and you've got fewer new people coming in, whether that's immigration or younger workers. That is the state of the labor market. This report here does nothing to sway opinion or sentiment for me in one way or the other from what we've kind of been on this course.
By the way, this wasn't in the stack that you got, Paul, but the Wall Street Journal put together a piece on Sunday, I believe it was, on the hiring hotspots. Tucker, I don't think you guys covered that last week, did you?
No.
So there's been a lot written, obviously, and a lot of uproar from younger college grads that I've heard about the difficulty in finding jobs right now. And Wall Street Journal put together their list of hiring hotspots based on wages, affordability, and the pace of hiring. And a bunch of places that I certainly wouldn't have guessed. Yes, San Jose is on there, a beneficiary of the tech boom. But when you go take a look, the number one spot taking the cake is Birmingham, Alabama. And this is, again, for top 5 U.S. metro areas by percentile for 20-somethings with college degrees.
Okay.
This is not just general hiring. It's specifically looking at, hey, you've got a college degree. Where are you going to get the best bang for your buck, both in terms of wages and affordability? Birmingham, Alabama taking the first spot. Tampa, Florida taking the second spot. Not quite as good on the wages or affordability stand front, but hiring pace has been incredible there. San Jose, wages taking the number one spot on that front. Affordability, obviously a real hit there, but the pace of hiring still pretty good in San Jose. So if you can make it work, you can get paid a lot and get hired. Columbus, Ohio, taking that fourth spot, and then Raleigh, North Carolina, rounding out the top 5 there. They've got a whole list here, and I think the key answer to me is one where, hey, the situation has always been the case, but if you are willing to relocate and upend your lifestyle in your 20s, you can dramatically expand your potential options for employment. It's a big ask to go and leave your family and relocate to the other side of the country. but it's also a hell of a lot easier to do when you're in your 20s than it is when you are in your 30s or 40s. So interesting case. You can go take a look at it at the Wall Street Journal, just where they rank these cities, and they do change year to year, but for the moment, these were their top 5, and they've got it broken out by region too, which I found interesting. Quick break. When we come back, full market update. They're in rebound mode after yesterday's sell-off, with Wall Street Watch coming up next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Consolidating Investment Accounts. Mike, how does someone end up with just this sprawl of different accounts over time?
We've all seen it before with family members or even ourselves, but according to the BLS these days, the average person stays at a job fewer than 4 years. And so imagine you're job hopping from place to place. You might have a retirement plan through there. And all of a sudden, a decade into your career, you could have 2 or 3 different retirement plans just from, changing jobs and taking that next promotion at a new place.
It doesn't even just happen with different retirement or investment accounts. It can happen with bank accounts or insurance policies. You can end up with stuff scattered everywhere.
Well, we all know that, that aunt or that family member that is always scouring for the best CD rate or interest rate on the savings account, or, has some money with this broker and this financial services company. And all of a sudden, you can be looking at a situation where over the years, you have a dozen different places where you keep assets, and that becomes more and more complicated to ensure that your spouse is on there, that you have beneficiaries aligned properly, and that you can actually monitor these things.
Folks, our guide is titled Consolidating Investment Accounts, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to armstrongadvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets rebounding today after yesterday's sell-off amid the fragile ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Yesterday, the UAE said that Iran launched drones and missiles against it. Right now, the Dow is up over 0.5%. S&P 500 is up about 0.75%. NASDAQ up about 1% higher, 247 points. Russell 2000 is up 1.25%. 10-year Treasury yield down 2 basis points at 4.422%. And oil pulling back about 4% today, trading at $102 a barrel. According to Bloomberg, Apple has held exploratory discussions with Intel and Samsung about producing main processors for its devices in the U.S. as a secondary option beyond longtime partner Taiwan Semiconductor. Intel stock rallying again today, up 14%, while Apple shares are up by 1%. Meanwhile, Palantir stock falling over 5%, despite the data analytics company posting a record quarterly revenue and profit for its previous quarter. Elsewhere, beer giant Anheuser-Busch InBev booked its first sales volumes growth in 3 years, sending shares up by 9%. PayPal sinking 10% despite beating earnings expectations. Pfizer reported stronger than expected first quarter earnings and revenue. That stock down by 1%. Coinbase announced the company will cut about 14% of its workforce, sending shares down by over 2%. And after today's closing bell, AMD will post its quarterly results. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
Well, if you haven't already heard, over the weekend, Spirit announced their own demise, liquidation, however you want to phrase it here. End of an era for the largest discount airline. I'm not sure that I would still throw Southwest into the discount airline category, although I guess you have to. They don't have any first-class cabins, so
right.
I guess you would still put them and JetBlue in there, in which case Southwest is the bigger one. But in terms of fare cost, I'm not sure you can really put them in the same category that Spirit was. Nonetheless, the business model, which had been under strain for the better part of a decade and extreme strain since the last 4 years and since COVID, finally met its demise as they did not find a path to reopening and are now facing liquidation of all of their assets, and I'm sure a long drawn-out process as they go through all of this, but ceasing operations effective this past weekend.
And ultimately, as much as they are the punching bag, I feel like in the airline industry, where a lot of us will say with families or whatever, I'm never going to fly Spirit again, this piece does a good job of outlining, while I did have mixed reactions, a little bit of a similar to reaction what's outlined in this piece, this idea that it's not good for all of us as consumers of airfares that the cheapest discount option gets eliminated, because of the simple thing that you learn in economics of supply and demand. Them being out there, Spirit, with these cut rate flights does allow for, it creates increased competition, and it makes the other JetBlues and other competitors keep their prices lower. And there are studies that have been done that even in 24 and 25, that in routes that Spirit backed away from, they saw a 23% average increase of the cost of other fares in that same transit route that was backed away by Spirit. There's all sorts of data that points to what all of us should probably know, that if you don't have a competitor in the market, you're probably going to lean in and increase your prices further. There's also arguments that have been made by United Airlines executives that airline fares pre-pandemic versus where they are today are still 27% lower on an inflation adjusted basis from where they should be, and now you have the jet
say
fuel
that
price.
again. So if you look at 2019 airfares, they are lower than inflation would have predicted them.
No, so if you look at the price of airfares in 2025 compared to where they were pre-pandemic, they're 27% lower than they should be if you equate it to pre-pandemic
CPI.
pricing adjusted for inflation.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So their point being that prices should be higher, and you do step away, and that's probably the takeaway from this. You have the jet fuel price increases that are muddying some of the data that we're getting recently and probably will muddy it going forward now that Spirit is no longer flying. But this will create upwards pricing pressure on domestic airfares, aside from everything with the jet fuel cost.
It's interesting. I'm sure other people have experienced this too, but I personally use Google Flights when I'm looking for a new flight and I want to track the prices. I use that, and I started tracking a couple of international flights prior to the outbreak of war in Iran, and both of those are up a good 40% in terms of total cost. And somebody did an analysis out there, I think I heard quoted that international flights are up about 50% since the outbreak of war. Domestic flights in the U.S. up about 25%. And frankly, the demise of Spirit, really the only path there is for it to be driven higher. Now, I do also think that there is a place for that business model, and it does leave the door open for more success from, say, JetBlue, Frontier, Allegiant, or some of these other, these other airlines that JetBlue wasn't modeled after Spirit, but some of the other ones were. Hey, we're going to be a no-frills airline that charges you. I have this experience because I just flew my mother-in-law 2 weeks ago on Spirit Airlines down to Florida. I think it was $75 for a carry-on, $80 for a checked bag. That was the model. We are going to charge you for everything. It's not going to be a Delta experience. But they were also pretty clear about it.
Yeah.
They weren't sugarcoating it like, hey, if you pay extra, we're going to put you in this nice first. No, that wasn't the deal. The deal was you took a lower price ticket and you got a lower price experience.
Yeah, I mean, the parallel, they modeled themselves after Ryanair in Europe, and for anyone who's been a study abroad student like I was back in the day, that's what you were getting. You were getting an experience where it wasn't the nicest ride around, but you got from point A to point B cheaply, and there's something to be said about having that as an option for consumers out there. And so hopefully you do see some of those other players take the mantle there and keep, sort of the lower end around, but we'll see.
I'm unconvinced that this will be the last domestic airline bankruptcy that we see in 2026 or 2027. Yeah, we talked about this a bit yesterday. JetBlue's finances
they're on the ropes too. Yeah,
not great. Has not made a full year profit since 2019. They've got some cash, but they face a lot of big hurdles. And like Spirit, I doubt they had the cash available to hedge against jet fuel prices. So I think, one, they're already facing reputational damage from being an unreliable airline according to the Wall Street Journal reliability rankings, and now this additional hurdle.
And how does that not point to higher airfares if you think about that, right? They've one competitor has been eliminated. JetBlue's on the ropes. If you want to seize their territory, you're going to have to you'll charge a little bit more because there's 100%. Not other options.
Yeah, I think it's very clear which direction airfares will be going over the course of the next 5 years, and it's not going to benefit consumers. So, it is what it is. End of an era with Spirit Airlines. Not that they were the biggest. I think in total, their total passenger volume only accounted for 2% of the overall market.
Domestic travel.
So, wasn't huge, but it was enough of a player in critical routes to keep airfares lower elsewhere, and that era is now dead from the Spirit perspective. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about Ford's $30,000 truck. You just wait. It's allegedly coming in 2027. We'll be talking about it next on the Financial Exchange.
Subscribe now to our YouTube page, where you'll find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange. We'll get you caught up on anything and everything you might have missed, right here on the Financial Exchange. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust.
These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
For many families, an energy bill can mean difficult choices, wondering when or even how it will get paid. It shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has helped families afford life's basic needs. First through Joe for Oil, and now through Joe for Sun. A simple way to save on electricity at no cost to you. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. We keep it simple and help you lower your utility bill. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Lori Trahan are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is incredibly proud to be a partner of the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Nearly 400 runners have already registered for this year's DAV 5K. The event sold out in record time last year, so head to dav5k.boston for all the information about how you can participate this November or make a donation to support our great American heroes. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to dav5k.boston and make your donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
As Tucker pointed out during the break, there's a secret team blowing up Ford's assembly line. It's not much of a secret given that the Wall Street Journal and every other major news publication is reporting it this morning. But they're blowing up the assembly lines in order to make a $30,000 electric truck. To which I got to say, does this not feel exactly like Elon Musk promising a $25,000 Tesla since like 2010? That's what it feels like to me, is that we are going to get this promise of a $30,000 Ford electric truck that I'm not buying. I don't believe it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, so Ford had previously set up a secret team that, as you just mentioned, is no longer a secret, but put together a skunkworks Ford version of
just a ragtag group of misfits,
yeah, exactly,
ne'er-do-wells, and
of techies and old school Ford veterans to create a super team to try and basically take on the Chinese EV market. It sounds like a great movie plot, but the execution is what it's all going to come down to. It's rumored that this car would come out in 2027. The new truck is supposed to have 300 miles on a single charge, and like you mentioned, cost $30,000 and be as fast as the Mustang. And a little bit of skepticism here, like you mentioned, because Ford, like you said, has been sort of going through its tried and true playbook. They were the ones who basically created the manufacturing supply line that companies have been so familiar with for hundreds of years, and they're trying to blow this thing up and do it in a more cost-effective fashion. The reason I have a degree of skepticism on it is that the person that was leading Ford's EV and tech, their chief of that since 2021, Doug Field, who was a former Tesla executive, just left this past month, in the month of April. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, this guy was the head of this EV and digital design officer overseeing this endeavor for the last 5 or 6 years. You would think if he feels that this is going to be a rousing success, that perhaps he hangs on. And again, I'm speculating. Maybe there were other reasons why he left his post.
Sure.
But you would think that if it was going to be met with a tremendous amount of adulation, that he would want to be there in 2027 when it rolls out.
One would think that.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, other factors at play here. Just yesterday, we were covering how Ford themselves were talking about how the F-150 is kind of screwed because of the amount of aluminum that goes into it. Ford's own aluminum costs have nearly doubled this year because of, well, 3 factors. A fire at one of the main U.S. Aluminum production facilities, tariffs on imported aluminum, plus the fact that there is not really any imported aluminum because it all comes from the Middle East and the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, has made it so that, the aluminum that goes into their F-150 has been really expensive. And I got to guess that if you're planning on building a $30,000 electric truck, there's probably a heck of a lot of aluminum that goes into that too. So I'm going to file this one. And Tucker, if you want a prediction that we can, I don't know how you pay this off, but it'll never happen.
Okay.
Ooh.
The Ford $30,000 truck it'll get released, but it won't be $30,000.
Oh, okay.
There will never be a $30,000 truck. And you can put an end date on that if you want, but there will not ever be a Ford branded $30,000 pickup truck that's electric. I'm not seeing it happening. I don't think they ever get there.
Wow.
Yeah. I think this is silliness. Again, they're not the only ones. Elon Musk has been promising a $25,000 EV since God knows when, and it's never going to happen either.
Maybe adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, you want to adjust it for inflation, that's fine. But in terms of an actual, it's just never going to happen. Thank you, Ford. And by the way, I drive one of your electric vehicles. I own a Ford Mustang Mach-E. I love it. It's a good car, but it was $45,000. You're just not going to get there on a pickup truck for $30,000.
Mike, not buying the Ford Skunkworks division.
And if you do, it's going to give you a 50-mile range because it's going to have a basically golf cart battery in it. So that's I guess my point. Switching gears here away from electric vehicles, want to talk a bit about gas taxes. There's a piece in Bloomberg. You'll miss gas taxes when they're gone. Yeah, we would, because our infrastructure across the nation is crumbling, and this is one of the main sources to pay for it. The gas tax at the federal level is around 18 cents a gallon, I believe. It's more for diesel. and there's obviously state gas taxes as well. But unsurprisingly, when we've got the national average for gasoline today sitting at,
I'm going to guess 440.
Close, 448 on the national average. There's obviously a lot of pushback, and like in 2022, when a number of states paused their gas tax, Connecticut was one of those, states are considering doing so again, and the point that's being made here is not on the merits of gas tax or not. He actually makes the point that, with the growing number of EVs, we need some sort of different replacement, a use tax of roads instead of just a gas tax, because I'm personally not paying any gas taxes and contributing to highway funding in any way, shape, or form when I drive my EV. But the point he makes is if you just get rid of them, our crumbling infrastructure that's already problematic across the country is going to get worse.
Completely on board with this. It's no one likes the idea of a tax, but this one is pretty straightforward, and the incentives or the costs around it make sense in that cars that are less fuel efficient, that are typically heavier and really grind down the roads more. Think a big 18-wheeler or an SUV versus, your
which is why diesel gas taxes are higher.
Exactly.
That was the thought process.
The diesel gas tax are about 25 cents a gallon versus 18 for just regular gas. So that makes sense. Okay, right. You've got a bigger vehicle. It's speeding up the roads more. That is a higher tax that you should have to incur. And we all like to be able to drive on highways that are maintained in good order for safety reasons and for just, making it an easy drivable experience. So all this makes sense that you have to have this in place. It's really easy to administer. There's not the nuances of tracking mileage or all these other GPS positioning things that has been not rumored, but he suggests here as to how you can combat this from an EV perspective, which I guess I'm less concerned over from a market share perspective. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's not so much that it's going to lead to roads being in disarray. But he's right. It's a point that it is something
it's more
that's
of a
critical.
Fairness issue than it is anything else.
Right.
People have the perception of, these jerk EV people with their braggadocious license plates aren't paying the gas tax, and I am. So I agree there. The other thing that I would be perfectly willing as a taxpayer to flirt with the idea on, hey, you want to eliminate the gas tax if the national average is above $5 a gallon? I'm on board, but double it if it's under $4 a gallon. Just listening out there, wouldn't you be willing to pay a higher gas tax if gasoline was at a lower price at the moment in exchange for a lower gas tax if the gas was at a higher price? Now, again, don't trust the government. I'm not saying that we should trust them to do this properly, but just as a concept, I would be perfectly willing to say, yeah, if gas prices are up over $5 a gallon, the gas tax is zero. If it's $4 to $5 a gallon, then it's 18 cents, and it's under $4 a gallon, it's 36 cents.
Interesting.
I'd be all on board. You also need to trigger this stuff with inflation because that gas tax hasn't been moved since the 90s, so it doesn't actually pay for anything.
Right.
But, different story for a different day. We've got to take a quick break. Markets remain in positive territory as we close out the first hour of the show here, but a lot more to cover in the second hour, including a full market recap. We'll be right back.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? It's not, simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help.
Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative James McGovern are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide this month titled Consolidating Investment Accounts. Mike, what are some of the problems that people run into when they have accounts scattered everywhere?
The first one is just difficult to maintain and monitor. I can't tell you how many times I've met with somebody who has a life insurance policy that still has their brother on it instead of their wife or their husband, for example. So it does become really tough to monitor those things. If you're getting to required minimum distribution age, there can be certain rules around where you take money out of specific accounts, and if you miss it, there can be tax penalties. So it just becomes complicated to administer everything.
Despite that, there are still some cases where it makes sense to maintain a number of separate accounts as opposed to consolidating.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all know cases where, hey, that new bank is going to give you a better CD rate or introductory rate, and that can be worth real money. In other cases, if you have a retirement plan, there can be special benefits to keeping the money there. Maybe it is a excellent plan with really low costs. Maybe it'll allow you to avoid a required minimum distribution if you're still working into your 70s. Or there can be other strategies too, having money in a retirement plan and allowing you to do what's called a backdoor Roth conversion, all sorts of things that allow you to take advantage of having accounts in specific places.
Folks, the guide is titled Consolidating Investment Accounts, and there are two ways to request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second, by going to armstrongadvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Financial Exchange. It's Mike, Paul, and Tucker with you on a Tuesday where we've got markets in rebound mode. S&P 500 up 58 points, 0.8%. NASDAQ up almost a full percentage point. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 0.75%. This is after yesterday's fog of war news, strikes on multiple ships in the Strait of Hormuz, big tension and strikes between Iran and the UAE. In spite of all that, the U.S. still claiming that the ceasefire remains intact and no new escalation after we sunk, I think, 7 Iranian ships yesterday. That's been enough to allow oil prices to pull back a little bit from the precipice. We still are above $100 a barrel, but prices are down about 4.5% this morning. And yeah, again, I think the big positive news is this very well could have blown up to a new level here where U.S. was striking at new assets in Iran, but it hasn't to this point. I don't think anything's done on that front, and clearly the most important piece about whether or not ships are moving through the strait remains status quo. They aren't. And nothing to me indicates that this is in any way over, but it hasn't further escalated from where we were yesterday, I guess, is the good news. We got JOLTS out this morning at 10 a.m. That's the Job Openings Labor Turnover Survey, basically indicating that the state of hiring and the state of firing in the country has not changed much. I suspect when we get the labor market report on Friday of this week, which will be measuring unemployment rate, pace of hiring in the month of April, I don't expect that we're going to see a big spike or decrease in the unemployment rate. I think this moment in time is going to remain all about inflation for the Fed in terms of its dual mandate, and they won't really have much of an employment situation to be worried about at this point in time. Anything else catching your eyes, Paul, in terms of markets or any other factors out there?
We're about to jump into it a little bit, but the NASDAQ and the semiconductor companies continue to rise quite significantly. That's something that certainly has stood out and has been the case for the last month or so.
Yeah, I guess one other point to mention, we saw yields spiking yesterday, especially on that 30-year Treasury rate on the news out of Iran, and today we are seeing that reflected in mortgage rates with the Mortgage News Daily average 30-year sitting at 6.56% now. That is up from its pre-Iran war high of 5.99%. Pre-Iran war low of 5.99%. So we will see where things go on the interest rate and oil market front, and obviously is the main item that all of us are monitoring. But with recent earnings and everything else, eyes are turning back to the semiconductor space, and with a recent vote in the state of Maine, and then following a veto from the governor there, a lot of eyes on data center construction and how local municipalities are dealing with it. We've got a piece from the Bloomberg editorial board. Data centers are not the enemy; they are the future, and this is something that I think local municipalities are going to be dealing with for the next several years, weighing the benefits and costs of allowing this type of construction in their area.
Yeah, to sort of set the stage here, what are the positives on having data centers come to your state or municipality? The positive is it's a pretty easy way to lure in tax dollars that don't come with much consumption associated with a data center. Typically
doesn't have any kids to send to school.
No, it does not.
No baby data centers running around the kindergarten at this stage, as far as I know.
It is pretty well isolated in terms of commercial tax that you're generating from a building compared to other businesses.
I doubt you need a whole bunch of new police officers or firefighters to deal with a new data center. You might need more firefighters or more capacity there, but generally speaking, for every square footage of a home that goes up, you might need more school staff, more firefighters, police officers. You do not need that same infrastructure when it comes to a data center.
The downside of them, as much as it's an easy way to get tax dollars into your municipality, is that not a lot of jobs that come with it. Yes, the construction and the building of the data center is a labor-intensive effort that would bring a lot of jobs to the area, but once the data center is up and running, it is not staffed nearly as largely as some other businesses out there. And the biggest concern on voters' minds out there is the utility costs associated with it. These data centers, they consume a lot of water and they consume a lot of electricity. Right now, there's about 4,000 data centers across the U.S. with mentioned or rumored 3,000 more on the way. And we know that the big hyperscalers that Mike and I talk about in this program a lot are spending upwards of $750 billion of CapEx over the course of the next 3 to 5 years to continue to invest in this type of technology. What is so important with these data centers is, as much as there are concerns from residents on pressure on utility costs, we know how antiquated the grid system here is in the U.S. Hooking up to it is a lengthy process, but if you want to compete in this space, which for national security purposes, I think we can all agree that this technology is coming whether you want it or not, and to keep pace with China that has very few of these problems in the sense that they can just erect a data center wherever they want and just tell everyone to pound sand. We need to make sure that there is appropriate measures put in place that the residents of these communities are not footing the bill for the enhanced consumption of water and electricity impacting their utility bills. Finding a system to track that more rigidly so that these hyperscalers are footing the bill for these costs, to me, is far more important than just creating this idea, wait a minute, we're going to pause and stop the innovation and just not allow these things to be built. That's the way I'd rather see them tackle the problem.
And in fact, what I think is likely to happen is ultimately this is going to be controlled at the very local level, right? Like zoning rules and whether or not a data center gets built is heavily controlled by that local municipality. What's not controlled, though, what's at much more of a regional level are things like water availability and electricity costs, right? Like if I live in Needham and Dedham approves a 200,000 square foot data center, I'm guessing that my electricity utility costs are still going up.
Yeah.
Heck, they could build it in Maine, and I might still face a higher electricity utility rate. And I still might, maybe I live along the Colorado River, which is, notoriously in drought right now, and it's going to absorb a bunch of the water there. There are downstream impacts, literal downstream impacts there, that the local town isn't going to deal with. Frankly, given all of the property tax benefits that you're probably going to get from a data center being built in your town, I'd be all on board because I know that I'm going to feel the effects of higher electricity costs and higher water scarcity, and I might as well get some benefit from it in the short term. I think that this is going to be this battle that happens between towns because I think that these companies are going to be on a PR push. They're going to come to towns and say, look, this is how much we will pay you in property taxes. This is how much we will give in incentives to lower all of your other residents' property tax bills. And I don't think as much planning is going to be done on the water and electricity side of things to really formally understand what those costs look like. And that is the big piece of it. It's not the savings that you might get from property taxes. It is the infrastructure cost that is going to be there for 2 decades that needs to be built out and is largely, I think, being ignored right now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this reminds me of another argument too. Remember when all the Amazon warehouses were being built and those got rejected left, right? I'd take a data center over an Amazon warehouse any day of the week.
Why?
I don't have the traffic of giant trucks rumbling through the area all hours of the day.
I think
the Amazon warehouses are much bigger, by the way. The warehouses are about 1 million square feet, 600,000 to 1 million square feet. The typical data center is around 200,000. Some of the really big ones can be bigger, but the average hyperscale data center around 200,000 square feet.
I had heard that they're pretty sizable, but I think you might be underestimating some of the noise that they generate and the water effects around surrounding areas.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I would love to believe that this is going to be a well thought out exercise where regions come together to figure out how they're going to supply electricity and force these companies to reuse water and be intelligent about it. Instead, I think what we're going to ultimately get to is the same type of thing that we had with companies bidding for the Amazon HQ2,
yeah.
where it's just like, all right, which one's going to give me the best tax incentive? Let's race to get it approved because there's a whole bunch of benefits you get by being the first mover as a town. And the drawbacks are that you piss off a bunch of your residents, so you probably put it over, on the next town's border, just like you do with your town dump. I don't know if everybody else has, at least in the towns that I've lived in, the dump for your town is always right on the border of the next town that you hate and you're rivals with. So I assume you're going to do the same thing with the data center and make them deal with all the noise and light pollution. But that stuff is real. Like, you go take a look at some of the videos from places like Virginia and Texas where a lot of this stuff has been built. Residents are not happy about the light pollution, the noise, all of these different factors. And my bet would be there's not going to be a ton of forethought and planning going into this.
No, money's going to talk. They've got some pretty deep pockets on those hyperscalers. They'll find a way to get it done with the almighty dollar.
It usually does. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, talking a little bit about the semiconductor space with Apple's new plans. That's next on the Financial Exchange.
Missed a show? You can find them on our YouTube page. The show streams live every day, but every hour is archived, including all of our most newsworthy interviews. Go to YouTube and search for the Financial Exchange Radio Show. It's important to update your estate plan as changes occur in your life, or you can wind up with significant issues that may affect your future. Get Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid.
Call 866-848-5699 and get your copy today or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Over the years, it's easy to collect investment accounts, including old 401ks and multiple IRAs. But at some point, it can get hard to keep track of what you actually have. Too many accounts can lead to confusion, overlapping investments, and sometimes missed opportunities. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts, and in it, you'll learn how to simplify your financial life, giving you a clearer picture of your strategy, your risk, and your progress. The guide will also walk through how to avoid common mistakes and build a more organized, intentional plan. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your free copy of our new guide called Consolidating Investment Accounts. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Jake Auchincloss are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Follow the Financial Exchange Show on Instagram and see what's driving the conversation about Wall Street and economic trends. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. And yesterday, GameStop announced a proposal to buy eBay for $56 billion. GameStop is the world's largest video game retailer. eBay is the world's largest online auction-style marketplace. So our trivia question today, which company, eBay or GameStop, was founded first? Once again, which company, eBay or GameStop, was founded first? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, will win that T-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Gotta love a good trivia contest where you got a 50-50 shot of winning.
Yeah, man.
Or at least being correct. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but I like those odds. We were talking about vehicles in the in one of the previous segments, and specifically Ford and their, quote, secret plan to develop a $30,000 electric truck, which my bold prediction, never going to happen. But they are revamping a lot of their manufacturing lines and bringing in new people to try and figure out, how could we feasibly do this? Again, with aluminum prices up, with all of the battery tech being so expensive now, I'm not willing to buy that anybody's rolling out for the long-term truck. Somebody texted into the show. Again, you can do the same at 617-362-1385. Quote, they might roll out the 30,000 truck for a little while, but it won't last long. They won't be cost-effective enough to continue producing after a short period of time. Yeah, maybe. I don't even think you get there on the MSRP. I don't think any of these things ever get sold at $30,000 because I just don't think it's going to work. But I suppose possibly that's going to be the case. One other phenomenon that I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but I've seen 3 of these in Connecticut when I was down there recently, and then I saw another one on I-90 in Massachusetts the other day. Are these really tiny trucks that I didn't even know what the name of them are, but they're apparently called K trucks, KEI, these Japanese mini trucks. They're, again,
it looks like
small cab and then a flat bed.
It looks like a small box truck, but without the box. It's just a bed.
Just a really small box truck with a bed. And again, I've never seen one of these on U.S. roads before, and I was kind of curious, where are these coming from? And it is, of course, a weird loophole. So due to a 25-year import rule exemption, these tiny trucks that were made in the 90s are now being imported and registered as classic cars because they're over 25 years old. They were built in the 90s. These things are then allowed to be exempted from all sorts of safety and emission standards that are present on new cars that get imported because, again, they're being imported as a classic car. And so these things get made by Honda, Suzuki, and other Japanese companies that produce these things. But I suspect we're going to see a few more of them, and I'm just all about it. I mean, I've been pretty vocal in my criticisms of people with giant $90,000 F-Series pickup trucks that, use them once a year to go get mulch at the dump or something like that. And this can do all of those things and more at a price point of usually between $5,000 and $10,000. And I don't know how many of these things are, but I've seen 3 of them in the past month and a half and had not seen any of them ever before.
Yeah, according to Japan Used Motor Vehicle Export Association, there's been more than 30,000 exported to the U.S. in the last 5 years. So there's actually something behind. This is from a WMUR.com article that I'm citing here from back over the course of last summer. But it does seem like you're seeing more of these now. And so these have the hand cranked windows too,
nice.
Roll down.
It's like my first Mazda.
It's old school across the board here that it seems
it's a stick shift too.
they're that would be problematic for yours truly.
So if you're wondering why you're starting to see these tiny Japanese trucks on the road, the answer is that they're classics now, so you can get away with it. And what a practical solution. I don't need a $30,000 Ford EV because I can get a $7,000 Honda Acti or Suzuki Carry. Love it. Apple exploring onshoring chip production by using Intel and Samsung to build some of their main device components here in the United States. And I'll tell you, I think this is the perfectly logical situation to what we are seeing in Iran right now.
Yep.
When you think about the 2 main areas that geopolitical experts have forever been concerned about having a blockade of. The first one is the Strait of Hormuz, and the second one is the Taiwan Strait or the Chinese Sea.
And I put it in reverse order in terms of economic impact because
100%.
the economic impact on Taiwan or any issues in terms of manufacturing disruption there would be a cataclysmic situation for the global economy. It is so much more critical. Not to say the Strait of Hormuz isn't. We're finding out that it clearly is, but it is so much more critical to all the stock market growth that we've seen from the need for these products. And so Apple is rightfully scrutinizing their supply chain, realizing that Taiwan Semiconductor, which is the close to end-all be-all in terms of a semiconductor manufacturer that does the most sophisticated manufacturing of these processors that Apple has here, as well as the chips that NVIDIA designs. They are the manufacturers behind it. And because of the shortage of memory, of all sorts of other semiconductor resources out there, Apple is scrutinizing their own global supply chain, that even them being the biggest customer, one of the biggest customers that Taiwan Semiconductor has, it's probably now been eclipsed by NVIDIA. They're scrutinizing their business supply chain, saying that we need other places to go to. Again, even though Intel is, I just can't even figure out Intel. They just continue to be on this parabolic roar of any kind of good news. They're literally just looking at Intel, and Intel stock is up 14% today. They haven't put any orders down or anything like that. They're just potentially interviewing and preliminarily looking at Intel and Samsung to develop these processors, and Intel just can't be stopped and is up another 14% today.
By the way, while 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, 60% of all semiconductors come from Taiwan, and 90% of the most advanced semis come
that's
from,
what I was thinking of, the 90%.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to build a data center, 90% of your supplies come from Taiwan currently. Quick break. Wall Street Watch is coming right up. That's next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Stephen Lynch are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Long-term care costs can reach thousands of dollars per month and can put a serious strain on your savings. The experts at Cushing & Dolan often see families caught off guard by that reality. Without the right plan in place, those costs can quickly eat through a lifetime of your hard work. But here's the shocker. Many estate plans don't protect your assets from those expenses. The right strategy may involve specific types of trusts designed to help protect your assets, but timing matters. Cushing & Dolan has a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It breaks down some of the most common and costly mistakes people make and explains how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are rebounding today after yesterday's sell-off amid the fragile ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, with oil pulling back today. Right now, the Dow is up over 0.5% or 255 points. S&P 500 up about 0.75%. NASDAQ up 0.9% or 231 points. Russell 2000 is up over 1.5%. 10-year Treasury yield is down 3 basis points at 4.412%. And oil down 4% today, trading right around $102 a barrel. According to Bloomberg, Apple has held exploratory discussions with Intel and Samsung about producing main processors for its devices in the U.S. as a secondary option beyond longtime partner Taiwan Semiconductor. Intel stock rallying again today, up another 14%, while Apple is up about 1%. Meanwhile, Palantir stock falling over 5% despite the data analytics company posting a record quarterly revenue and profit for its previous quarter. Elsewhere, beer giant Anheuser-Busch InBev booked its first sales volume growth in 3 years. Shares in the Budweiser maker are up by 9%. Pinterest jumping nearly 11% after the image-sharing platform beat quarterly estimates and posted a second quarter guidance that came in above forecasts. Coinbase announced the company will cut about 14% of its workforce, sending shares down by 2%. And after today's close, AMD will report its quarterly earnings. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked you the trivia question: which company, eBay or GameStop, was founded first? Well, that would be GameStop, which was founded in 1984 in Texas. eBay was founded in 1995 in California. And Jeremy from Vineyard Haven, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Paul, I want to talk about the great wealth transfer that gets described over and over again, especially in our industry of managing money. And just some details on it, because certainly, there is a lot of concentration, and I know firsthand, Paul, that neither your experience nor my experience has to do with managing money for multi-billionaires or billionaires at all. But when you talk to your clients who are wealthy by definition. What is their average attitude towards inheritance and giving money away while living? Like, how do they view it all? Because I have a view, but I don't want it to taint your own experience.
In terms of what I'm seeing from people,
yeah. What do they say and what do they do?
Yeah, so it can vary pretty significantly. Some couples that you meet with will be under the pretense of, hey, I want to do gifting that makes an impact while my children will significantly benefit from it, while they're starting their young family, while they're enduring higher costs from childcare or whatever the case may be. But I've met with others who are concerned that by gifting too much, they make it too easy on their kids, and they want to make sure that they're there as a backstop, but also not going to enable their kids to spend freely and not at least have to kind of work for it like they feel they did as my clients. And so everyone does have a differing view on it, but the one thing that is quite common is that there is a tremendous amount of focus with clients on how do I do this appropriately. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it, but I don't know if I have one common refrain. It does seem like everyone differs.
I do think it differs, but I will say that the most common one that I hear is, I saved this money. Mm-hmm. I raised my children. They are doing well. They are successful. They went to college. They don't have a tremendous amount of debt. If they get something great, but I want to spend this money.
Sorry, I should have addressed that. I just focused on for the people who do care about it, the breakdown. But yeah, you're right. The biggest pie of that distribution is in the camp of they get what they get.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with you there. And to that end, it kind of plays into this journal article of, hey, that wealth transfer won't be happening anytime soon. There are some key stats about longevity that I think people fail to realize, because they focus too much on average life expectancy. And average life expectancy in the United States today is around, so we're at average of 79 years. Mm-hmm. But that's at birth. And so the piece that people fail to realize is that when you take a 65-year-old married couple and look at life expectancy on that side of things, it is far different than when you're talking about a newborn. So when you take a 65-year-old married couple that's already made it there and has the benefit of being married and therefore extends their life expectancy, you're talking about a woman on average living to 87 years old and a man living to 84.
Really? Okay.
In fact, there is a 40% chance that a 65-year-old woman will make it to 90 and a 30% chance that a man will make it to 90 at 65. When you then take the couple, because if we're talking about the inheritance piece of it, we're talking about when's the second one done.
Right.
When you take a couple and extend that out, you're talking about a 50-50 shot that at least one of them makes it to age 90. Mm-hmm. A 25% chance that at least one makes it to 95, and still like 5 to 7% chance that at least one makes it to 100 years old. So a few things about that. One, I agree. The wealth transfer, it ain't happening anytime soon because most people think about it the way that I just described. I've helped my kids. If they really need help down the road, I might be willing to do so, but otherwise they're going to get this money when I'm dead. Mm-hmm. Two, the piece that I think a lot of folks fail to understand is that generation is, on average, horribly unprepared for the dramatic costs of long-term care. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of them don't have long-term care insurance. The vast majority of them, if you have 50% of married couples, at least one of them living till age 90, guess what? You're probably going to need some care. In that case, they are underestimating how much it costs, and they are not doing a very good job, in my personal opinion, of explaining their wants to their kids. And by wants, I mean, this is the type of care that I want provided. This is the type of care I don't want provided. If I don't recognize you, this is what I want to have. That stuff is not written down somewhere, and nobody likes talking about it because
it's not seriously handled either. How many jokes have we heard about sending someone out on a
walk
sailboat?
Off into the woods. Yeah. I'm going to take that sailboat trip. Like, as horrifying as that sounds, yeah, that's the usual response that I get from people, and so. That's the other piece of this that I think is underappreciated. Yes, there is $94 trillion sitting in baby boomers' bank accounts and investment accounts and net worth. I don't know how much of that is going to be spent on long-term care, but I don't think it's an insignificant sum.
Mm-hmm.
If you have questions about how to deal with your financial legacy, maybe you're in that baby boomer or older generation and trying to sort through how to leave the assets to your loved ones. Maybe you're in that younger generation and you're trying to figure out how to broach the subject with your family and figure out what the plan should be. Believe it or not, this is a huge component of what a financial advisor does, and what the financial advisors at Armstrong Advisory Group do on a day-to-day basis is talk to our clients about their legacy plans, about their long-term care plans, and about what it's going to mean to leave money behind, and involve the families in those conversations. If you would like to have conversations along those lines and could use the expertise of somebody who understands the tax ramifications and estate planning ramifications of doing so, give Armstrong Advisory Group a call. The number is 800-393-4001. You can check us out online or book a time for us to call you back at armstrongadvisory.com. But that phone number, once again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
By the way, one other plug that I'll just make on this subject, as is the case, most people look at it as, hey, if they get something, great, but, not really my key focus. For the group that does do some gifting, I have to tell you, I see mistakes all the darn time.
Mm-hmm.
I gave away my home. I gave away my lowest cost basis stock because it's been this family heirloom that, I has, built upon generation. I want to leave it to the next generation. There are so many complicated tax scenarios that fall into when you are giving that money away that get genuinely underappreciated, that, you want to know why the billionaires have plans in place that maintain wealth for multiple generations? Because they know these rules and take advantage of them. And we see mistakes being made by folks in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that, again, if you're getting a gift, if you're getting an inheritance, who am I to look a gift horse in the mouth? But there are better ways to do it than to just give an asset away. And so be very careful about that if you are planning something. And if you're not gifting, there can be downsides too, right? I mean, especially with retirement accounts and not taking withdrawals out of those, you can end up leaving your kids in a much higher tax bracket than you would have been in. But that's where some intelligent planning comes in, and understanding all the rules is critically important.
No doubt.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, bit of Stack Roulette is next on the Financial Exchange.
From markets to money to business and financial news, watch the Financial Exchange every day on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and keep up to date on the market news you need to know. This is the Financial Exchange.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
For many families, an energy bill can mean difficult choices, wondering when or even how it will get paid. It shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has helped families afford life's basic needs. First through Joe for Oil, and now through Joe for Sun. A simple way to save on electricity at no cost to you. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. We keep it simple and help you lower your utility bill. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132, weekdays from 11 to noon. Get the latest business and financial news from across the country and around the world, and keep up to date on how it might affect your wallet. That's the Financial Exchange, weekdays from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Remember, you can watch the show live every day on our YouTube page. Well, breaking business news and all of our content is also archived, so if you want to go back and see a discussion about a specific topic you enjoyed, it's all there with the click of a button. Just search the Financial Exchange on YouTube and be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Paul, time for Stack Roulette. What do you have for us today?
Mike, it's time to cover some AI stuff. We've got a piece here in the Wall Street Journal that asked ChatGPT to manage a stock portfolio, and they have the results of how they did. So basically, what they did is they asked ChatGPT to act as a financial advisor during key moments within the markets, and what they found here was that the results were a little bit mixed, and there were some pitfalls with their experience.
They compared the AI agent to a grad school
a teacher's
assistant who smokes too much weed.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's not exactly a glowing review.
No, it's not. So the teaching assistant that has the requisite knowledge to answer your questions, but from time to time may have hit the bong too hard or hit the joint too hard and sort of would slip from normal fiduciary advice. Basically, some of the pitfalls that they ran into, while it did demonstrate knowledge about subjects and creating an asset allocation tailored to what this reporter wanted in terms of managing a hypothetical $1 million portfolio, it did find that it made some simple arithmetic errors and left too much in cash within the portfolio. It also suggested the use of options as a hedging mechanism, something that is complicated, and even an advisor will tell you it's not easily done within portfolios. And when it would suggest certain investments, it found that, and ChatGPT has a propensity to do this, that, for example, it mentioned the use of triple leverage ETFs, which anything that is leveraged and and in addition, triple leverage has significant risks that come with it. All of us know that as advisors, but it found that ChatGPT, while explaining some of the pitfalls, would sort of almost try and provide some solutions or provide some potential uses of triple leverage ETFs to this particular reporter going through the exercise. And ChatGPT has this sort of bias in a sense in when you can use it. It kind of can feed you the information that you're looking for. If you have an inclination that you want to look at triple leverage ETFs,
it's a people pleaser.
Exactly. So again,
it's not going to tell you the truth. It's going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right. So it did,
which some advisors will do too, by the way.
That's true. Yeah, it did end the article by saying that it should have had ChatGPT in thinking mode rather than auto. I guess that amounts to a difference between a high school level thinker and a PhD level thinker. But the bottom line being that it wasn't ready for prime time yet is the takeaway from the
I got to be honest,
reporter.
Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong plenty, but I don't see that as the use case for AI.
Portfolio management?
No, any of these things. Whether it is, an AI agent that is going to diagnose my illness or file my taxes or design a landscape for my backyard or provide me financial advice. I don't think any of those are going to be solid use cases of artificial intelligence that people want to use in the near future. I think instead what it's going to be is this, ChatGPT financial advisor will make you, the financial advisor, far more efficient at delivering good advice to your people, to your clients. It'll make the CPAs faster and able to handle more clients and able to input taxes and submit them more efficiently. It will make doctors able to diagnose things more easily without having to do manual research, and it will make lawyers better at drafting legal documents. But I don't think anybody's going to say, yeah, I want to use AI to draft my will, because I don't think anybody's going to trust it in the short term, and I'm not sure you should. Right? The lawyer is going to have the knowledge and background to be able to look at something that an AI drafts and say, well, that's screwed up. It clearly hallucinated there. And the financial advisor is going to look at it and say, well, it clearly doesn't understand the complexity of options trading. And the doctor is going to say, well, it clearly ignored the reality of this patient's scenario. And if you don't have that requisite background knowledge, I think people are going to harm themselves and shy away from it.
I agree with you. It depends. Where I would potentially disagree with you is how long you dictate near term. Because right now AI has clearly pivoted, and we were just talking about off air a piece that Anthropic released on the financial advisor world. Enterprise is the focus right now. And in terms of the way Anthropic has been able to grow their revenue, which I believe is going at a trailing 12 forward projected of $40 billion from what was $6 or $7 billion is on the enterprise side. They've been able to provide solutions for businesses, and the consumer side isn't there yet. So I'd agree with you. In the near term, you're going to see far more usage by businesses, but I wouldn't agree that you're not going to get there where the landscaping scenario that you painted out couldn't be a use case in the future for do-it-yourselfers to adopt the technology.
I think it's going to take a generation.
A generation.
I think it's going to take a generation of new young kids to grow up with this technology well enough to trust it to do things themselves. I think that is literally going to be the adoption cycle. For example, how many 80-year-olds do you know that are comfortable with online banking?
Very few.
I don't think it's that different from that. I think that there are going to be generations of people who say, no, if I want tax advice, I want to talk to somebody.
Oh, sure.
And if I want legal advice, I want to talk to the lawyer. I'm not going to go draft it myself, and I'm not going to trust some AI platform. And so I do think it's going to take more. The technology might be capable of handling more of this stuff within the next 5 years. I have no doubt. But people's willingness to trust it, I think, is going to be the bigger barrier.
Our kids will come up through it and trust it, where we'll have the skepticism that they might not have.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, again, I've been wrong about plenty of these things, but to me, it's about making trained professionals more efficient who can then deliver a lower price point to people rather than doing it yourself. Quick break for the next 22 hours. We'll be right back at it tomorrow. Market strongly in positive territory with the NASDAQ leading the way up. We'll have a full recap for you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.